Imagine waking up to discover that $257 million has quietly vanished from one of the world's most watched biotech ETFs, almost overnight. Not from a rogue trade or a black swan event, but from thousands of investors giving up on the entire sector. The SPDR S&P Biotech ETF, better known as XBI, just lost over 5% of its assets in a single week. An exodus that has Wall Street talking and Main Street wondering, is biotech's golden era over? Or is this the beginning of something even more dramatic? Let's peel back the curtain on what's really happening inside these colossal funds, and what it means for anyone searching for opportunity at the intersection of money and medicine. Why are investors suddenly walking away from one of the most innovative industries on Earth, just as gene editing and AI-powered drug discovery are shattering scientific limits? And most importantly, can biotech bounce back, or is the age of blockbuster breakthroughs being priced out of existence? To answer that, we have to understand how biotech investing became such a high-stakes game in the first place. Biotechnology, the fusion of life sciences, chemistry, and technology, has been a magnet for thrill-seeking investors for decades. With its promise to cure incurable diseases, extend the human lifespan, and mint fortunes seemingly overnight, the sector's highs have been legendary. But so have its lows. This is an industry built on risk, $1 billion drug trials, a decade of research vaporized by a single failed study, and regulations that can turn a hero into a zero in one afternoon. Enter the ETF. Exchange-traded funds like XBI offer a way to ride the biotech roller coaster without betting the farm on any single company. XBI is unique. It's equal-weighted, giving as much exposure to tiny, high-growth startups as it does to established players. For investors, this meant a ticket to the entire biotech carnival. The Nobel-worthy breakthroughs and the flameouts alike, all bundled together. This isn't your grandfather's blue-chip healthcare fund, as Brad Lonkar of Lonkar Investments put it. Biotech ETFs swing harder than almost anything else in the market. Investors have to be ready for real volatility. Over the last decade, these funds have mirrored the sector's feverish upswings and catastrophic drops. In boom years, like the early days of CRISPR gene editing or the COVID-19 vaccine race, money poured in. In bust periods, when drug pricing fights or failed clinical trials dominated headlines, the money rushed out, sometimes in a matter of days. The last 12 months have told a new story. XBI's price has ricocheted between $66 and $105 per share, a wild ride even by biotech standards. And yet, as of this week, it sits ominously at $78, closer to the bottom than the top. The sudden $257 million weekly outflow isn't just a footnote, it's a flashing warning sign. Why, when scientific progress is breaking records, are investors heading for the exits? Part of the answer lies in the DNA of biotech's investing cycles. Unlike tech or energy, the fate of a biotech company can hinge on a single FDA approval or a single line of code in a machine learning algorithm. It's not just about patents and pipelines, but about passing regulatory gauntlets and convincing governments and patients that a miracle cure is worth paying for. New laws are reshaping the landscape. The Inflation Reduction Act's drug pricing reforms are expected to chop $100 billion from pharmaceutical revenues over the next decade. Suddenly, even the most promising companies must rethink how they fund R&D or risk being left behind. Regulators are tightening up, with the FDA now approving drugs at an all-time record pace, 60 new therapies in 2024 alone, but also scrutinizing pricing and efficacy with unprecedented intensity. It's a paradox. More amazing medicines are making it to market, but fewer companies are turning scientific brilliance into sustainable profits. Michelle Gilson of Goldman Sachs explained, "We expect increased M&A activity in the coming years. Big pharma needs fresh pipelines, and that means bargains for some, buyouts for others, and heartbreak for many." At the heart of it all is the investor's dilemma: play it safe or chase the next miracle. With rising interest rates, money has gotten more expensive, and the market punishes risk. Growth stocks, especially cash-burning startups, are suddenly out of fashion. Investors are seeking safer havens, Lonkar warned, but biotech doesn't offer many safe spaces. This climate is reshaping the sector in real time. Some funds, like the broad healthcare titans VHT and XLV, are seeing inflows as investors chase less risky, more diversified bets. But for pure biotech, the stakes have never been higher. Will the small innovators with world-changing tech survive long enough to reach the finish line, or will they be picked apart by giants, or worse, run out of cash before their moment arrives? John Maraganore, the pioneering former CEO of Alnylam Pharmaceuticals, summarized the tension perfectly. Innovation is creating real value, but clinical trial execution is critical. One misstep, and billions in hopes and dollars can disappear. Meanwhile, the biotech sector isn't waiting for a rescue. Companies are frantically restructuring, slashing spending, and hunting for strategic partnerships. Legendary names like Gilead are snapping up smaller targets. Its $27 billion acquisition of Immunomedics proved that even in tough times, Big Pharma's hunger for innovation persists. Yet, the shadow of failed mergers or stalled trials haunts every new deal. And then there's AI, the promise to revolutionize drug discovery, turning years of research into months or even days. AI and machine learning are revolutionizing drug discovery, says Mikhail Dolston, Pfizer's head of R&D. Venture capital is pouring money into these startups, betting that the first company to decode biology's secrets could become the Amazon or Google of medicine. But the competition is fierce, the risks are enormous, and the regulatory hurdles are only getting higher. Add to this the relentless drumbeat of macroeconomic uncertainty. A whiff of inflation, a hint of political instability, and biotech valuations can tumble overnight. Investors, already spooked by last year's losses, are whispering about a new era of caution, and some are abandoning sector ETFs like XBI entirely. The emotional stakes couldn't be higher. For patients, every delay in research is a matter of life and death. For scientists, the pressure to produce results with shrinking budgets is relentless. For investors, the question is blunter. Is biotech still the land of opportunity, or is it becoming the domain of only the biggest, most deep-pocketed players? And yet, beneath the anxiety, innovation pulses stronger than ever. Gene editing is racing ahead. AI-driven drug discovery is breaking speed records. The global market for AI and drug discovery is set to triple by 2027, reaching $4 billion. But will that translate into returns for investors, or just more volatility? As we stand at this crossroads, the industry is bracing for one of four futures. Will a wave of mergers and acquisitions drive a new bull market? Will gene editing finally deliver on its promise? Or will ethical and regulatory hurdles slam the brakes? Will rising drug price controls crush profits, or force companies to become more innovative and more efficient? Or will investors abandon biotech altogether, pivoting to broader healthcare or safer sectors, leaving startups to fight alone? The next moves from regulators, investors, and innovators will decide not just the fate of XBI, but the entire promise and peril of modern medicine. But with so much money already on the line and so many lives at stake, one question remains unanswered. Has the biotech revolution hit a wall, or is this the final nerve-wracking pause before the next leap forward? Let's look forward, because the outflow from XBI might signal more than a fleeting storm. It could be the start of a profound transformation, not just for a single ETF, but for the entire biotech ecosystem. Imagine three distinct futures unfolding from here, each with its own risks, rewards, and ripple effects across the markets. In the first scenario, we witness a resurgence of so-called biotech mania. Picture this. The M&A engines roar back to life. Pharmaceutical giants, flush with cash and desperate to refill their dwindling pipelines, snap up promising biotech firms left and right. Michelle Gilson from Goldman Sachs recently predicted, "We expect increased M&A activity in the second half of 2025, driven by large pharma's need to replenish pipelines." If this materializes, XBI could experience a sharp turnaround. Acquisition premiums would lift the ETF's price, and investor sentiment might recover rapidly. Historical data backs this up. During previous waves of M&A, like 2014 and 2018, biotech indices shot up double digits within months. The sector could become the darling of risk-hungry investors once again. But here's the catch. M&A is a double-edged sword. Not every deal succeeds. Failed acquisitions or regulatory pushback can spark panic selling, with target companies suffering brutal losses. There's always the risk that a single high-profile failure could send shivers through the entire sector, reigniting the very outflows we're witnessing now. Now let's flip to the second scenario, a scientific revolution centered on gene editing and AI. Consider the headlines if a landmark CRISPR-based therapy wins regulatory approval, or if AI algorithms identify the next blockbuster cancer drug. The FDA already approved a record 60 new drugs in 2024, signaling that innovation hasn't slowed despite the current malaise. According to Mikhail Dolston, chief scientist at Pfizer, AI and machine learning are revolutionizing drug discovery, enabling us to identify promising targets and accelerate clinical development. This isn't science fiction. It's already reshaping the way companies approach R&D. Should these breakthroughs prove real and safe, they could spark a flood of capital back into the sector. XBI might surge as investors chase the promise of life-changing therapies. But this path is fraught with ethical dilemmas, unpredictable side effects, and the ever-present risk of clinical failures. One bad headline about an adverse reaction or a regulatory clampdown on genetic engineering could quickly reverse any gains. The third scenario is darker: rising regulation and political interference. The Inflation Reduction Act's drug pricing reforms alone are projected to cut pharma revenues by $100 billion over the next decade. Arlene Weintraub, a senior biotech analyst, cautions, regulatory pressures on drug pricing will continue to weigh on biotech stocks, favoring companies with innovative therapies. Longer FDA approval timelines and tougher safety requirements could choke the sector's profitability. In this case, we'd likely see more money drained from XBI and similar ETFs, as investors give up on so-called moonshot science and retreat to the safety of broader healthcare funds or even dividend-rich stocks outside of biotech. And let's not overlook the rise of alternative investment strategies. Investors rattled by the XBI's volatility are already eyeing broader healthcare ETFs like the Vanguard Healthcare ETF or the Healthcare Select Sector SPDR Fund. These vehicles smooth out the highs and lows by including large-cap pharmaceuticals, medical device firms, and stable healthcare providers. Others are targeting specific subsectors, such as medical devices or healthcare IT, seeking pockets of growth insulated from biotech's binary risks. In essence, capital is searching for new safe harbors. So what does all this mean for you, the savvy investor, industry watcher, or curious observer? First, recognize that volatility is the price of admission in biotech. Unlike mature sectors, where earnings and dividends offer a ballast, biotech's fortunes rise and fall on clinical trial results, regulatory whims, and macroeconomic shocks. The current outflows from XBI are simply the latest chapter in a long history of boom and bust. But volatility also means opportunity for those who do their homework. If you're considering exposure to the sector, here are actionable lessons directly from industry experts. 1. Focus on fundamentals. Judith Munman from Piper Sandler advises, "We are telling clients to focus on companies with strong balance sheets and late-stage assets to weather the current volatility." In other words, while early-stage biotech can deliver spectacular returns, companies with products already in human trials, or even on the market, offer better odds of survival during down cycles. 2. Watch the macro environment. Biotech valuations are sensitive to interest rates. Brad Lonkar, a biotech fund manager, warns, when interest rates rise, growth stocks like biotech get hit the hardest. Keep an eye on central bank policy. Falling rates could reignite risk appetite for biotech. Rising rates may squeeze valuations further. 3. Diversify smartly. Rather than going all in on high-risk ETFs like XBI, you might split your investment across adjacent healthcare funds that include large-cap, dividend-paying firms. Alternatively, target specific subsectors, such as medical technology or diagnostics, where innovation is less likely to be derailed by regulatory or reimbursement headwinds. 4. Monitor regulatory signals. Stay alert for policy changes, especially around drug pricing and approval timelines. These factors can dramatically alter the risk-reward profile overnight. If Washington signals a new wave of cost-cutting, expect downward pressure on biotech. On the flip side, pro-innovation policies could provide a much-needed tailwind. 5. Don't ignore M&A trends. As Michelle Gilson notes, rising merger activity often precedes sector rallies. Watch for announcements of large pharma buyouts. These can trigger sector-wide momentum as investors anticipate more deals and bid up potential targets. 6. Consider small, focused bets. Instead of broad exposure through ETFs, do deep research into a handful of late-stage companies with strong pipelines, solid management, and sufficient cash to survive a prolonged downturn. Sometimes, less is more. Most importantly, keep your expectations realistic. Biotech investing is not for the faint of heart. The stories of overnight millionaires are outnumbered by the cautionary tales of sudden wipeouts. The sector rewards patience, discipline, and rigorous research, not blind optimism. Now, to answer the big question from earlier, will biotech weather the storm, or is this the end of an era for high-stakes biotech investing? The reality is more nuanced. We are not witnessing the end, but a reset. The days of easy money and unchecked speculation are over. Investors and companies alike are being forced to adapt to a tougher, more selective environment, where only the most innovative and financially disciplined players will survive and thrive. This changing landscape offers new opportunities for those who know where to look. As John Maraganore, former CEO of Alnylam Pharmaceuticals, puts it, the key to success in biotech is not just scientific innovation, but also strategic partnerships and efficient capital allocation. Scientific breakthroughs continue, as evidenced by the record 60 new drug approvals this year and the explosive growth of AI in drug discovery. But the bar for success is rising. Companies must now prove not only that their science works, but that it can be scaled and monetized in a world where investors have become much more discerning. There's a secret fact here too, one that most investors overlook. Historically, the best returns in biotech come not during the frenzied bull runs, but in the aftermath of steep corrections, when capital is scarce and only the strongest survive. Those brave enough to invest during downtimes, with careful selection and patience, have often enjoyed outsized rewards when the cycle inevitably turns. So, if you believe in the future of medicine, don't tune out. Stay informed. Watch for signs of renewed deal-making, clinical milestones, and policy shifts. Think long-term, but never lose sight of risk. If you found value in this deep dive, help others discover it by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing your own biotech stories or questions in the comments below. What do you think? Is now the time for caution or courage? And if you want more expert-backed analysis